Thank you for coming today. We're very excited to have you. We have Amelia Ravelo here today, and you practice both criminal law as well as personal injury. Is that true?
Yes, thank you guys so much for having me. Really excited to be here. Yes, I practice criminal defense and personal injury.
Okay, and how long have you been doing that for?
So I've been an attorney now almost 5 years. Initially, I started off at the state attorney's office here in Miami-Dade. I was a prosecutor. Then I went to private practice. I did a lot of insurance defense, commercial real estate litigation. It was a boutique firm, so I did honestly all different kinds of litigation. And then I recently opened up my own practice a few months ago. And now I just, I'm on the other side of the V in both regards. I'm now doing personal injury and I'm doing criminal defense.
And the criminal stuff is really interesting, I'm sure, to a lot of people. Being a prosecutor, what would you say is like the most difficult thing about being a prosecutor and working for the state?
I think the most difficult thing, at least from my perspective, was prosecuting crimes that you didn't want to. Yes, you do have prosecutorial discretion, which was great, but there's obviously guidelines in the office that you have to follow. Even offering your plea deals, there's very strict rubrics in terms of what pleas you can offer. And then, of course, you're constrained by the legislature, right? Like, as a prosecutor, I wasn't a lawmaker. I was just, another cog in the criminal justice system. I had to follow the law. I had to prosecute crimes in a certain way. And so I think it was hard to see people's lives being destroyed. Sure. And I did everything that I could to help them, but there were a lot of times that, my ability was limited. And that was really hard.
Right. So you had to separate your personal views, for example, maybe on a drug-related offense where you didn't want to go ahead and, charge them with whatever they were being charged with. But unfortunately, you had to do your job, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
now on the criminal defense side, I'm able to, fight hard for those people
Sure.
and try to get them the best deal that I possibly can. Obviously still constrained by the judicial system, but I don't know. I feel I'm more motivated now helping individuals and trying to get their lives back on track.
How much leeway did you have when you were working for the state in terms of like the plea deals, would you say?
So it's actually interesting because when you first start, you have way more leeway because you're doing lower crimes. You're doing like misdemeanors, a lot of traffic crimes. So you get a lot more discretion the more junior you are. And then as you rise up in the office, you lose discretion. So as you start getting to more serious crimes that obviously have a bigger impact on people's lives, you lose discretion. So as I rose the ranks in the state attorney's office, I realized that I just didn't want to. I don't know. I didn't feel like I was on the right side of the V.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What would you say drives those plea deals and like those decisions? Would you say it's mostly, I guess, the victim rights, or is it just society as a whole and making sure that certain, I guess, individuals are not necessarily hurting others, or is it more because of the victim's rights, or both?
I would say it's definitely both.
Yeah.
Victims' rights, especially, I know in the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office is a huge priority. We have Marcy's Law in Florida, which is actually a law that provides victims with the right, a lot of rights that other states I think don't have, which is the right that you need to have victim approval for certain deals. They need to be involved in the process. Also, they have a lot of privacy rights, like they'll be redacted from their arrest forms. They'll be redacted from certain informations depending on the crime.
That sounds fair. I mean,
Yeah.
Especially for the victims themselves,
sure.
because if not, they get also targeted, I'm assuming, after a crime, or if they're pushing for some kind of, sentencing or anything like that or charges, right? I mean,
Yeah. So to protect the victims' rights, and then also, protect society too. Like, what's a fair punishment for them? So
Right.
I think a lot of prosecutors and defense attorneys try to work out what's the most fair outcome. I don't know. That's like the big debate about criminal justice.
Actually didn't know that. So in some crimes, you have to get victim approval in order for the plea deals?
Yes, for violent crimes specifically, if there's a violent crime, you need victim approval for the plea deal. And you would have to get you have to raise it up in the state attorney's office to higher levels to get approval to override the victim's decision.
And this
if you were going to give the deal, but usually not. Like, you have to get the victim's approval for this.
And this is a Florida specific.
It's honestly, Marcy's law is by statute, but then there's also different offices have different interpretations of how they employ Marcy's law. So I know Miami specifically, you need victim approval on certain crimes. You don't need victim approval on other crimes, but typically for violent crimes across the board, you need victim approval.
Is it all violent crimes, or is it just certain violent crimes?
Particular violent crimes, but the ones that you would think of as obvious, like batteries, sexual assaults,
Right.
anything that's like a kind of an intimate violent crime. Yeah, you'd need victim approval for sure.
That's interesting. And obviously you worked for the state for a little bit, and now you're doing defense work. What would you say is the biggest difference between the two?
Obviously, so many different situations. Before, I was concerned about the burden of proof. Now I don't have to really prove anything unless I'm asserting an alibi defense or anything like that.
Actually, you brought something up, the burden of proof, because we deal with different burdens of proof, whether it's civil and criminal, but not having to deal with the burden of proof. In your experience, is that really the case, right? Because we are in the eyes of the court, right? Maybe not in the eyes of the public, but in the eyes of the court, you're innocent until proven guilty. But do you feel that oftentimes that's actually not the case, right? The jury already comes in seeing that you've been charged as a criminal. Maybe you could be completely innocent, but even though you don't have that burden, right? The jury in their minds already thinking, look, they must have charged this guy for something. So in other words, you're almost trying to prove your innocence rather than, I've just seen examples of that where you're trying to prove your innocence rather than having the actual prosecution go ahead and charge you, prove their case, right? I mean, that's just been my sense, right? You're almost already guilty once you're in trial.
For sure. I mean, prosecutors always use the expression that where there's smoke, there's fire, right? Like we're here. So clearly he must have done something wrong.
Right. They're already, getting the jury to think they're guilty.
Think that. And of course, everyone thinks about that. Well, to get people to actually believe the presumption of innocence is hard. So like now as a criminal defense attorney, I think that's like one of the biggest things I struggle with is getting them to understand that, yes, this person here, they're being charged with a crime, but you really need to think that they are innocent. And it's the state's burden to prove that they're guilty. We don't have to prove their innocence. So that's like one of the quickest ways to strike people in jury selection is, do you understand that concept? It's a fundamental concept of criminal justice. If you don't, okay, judge, we need to get them out of here because they're not going to be a fair and impartial juror.
Right.
Yeah, no, the burden of proof, kind of like what Ralph said, in civil, it's very different. I mean, it's just a 1-point win, right?
Yeah.
Will get you over the top, and that's what gets you the win in civil. In criminal, it's very, very different. So it's interesting that you bring that up. Now, as far as trials, you said you've tried a lot of cases, especially criminal, correct?
Yes.
So what is the most difficult part of a criminal trial, would you say?
I think the most difficult part, I guess, would be the exposure, right? Like if you lose a civil trial, it's money. Granted, obviously money is important. Everyone needs money to live, but your liberty being at stake, I think, is probably the hardest part and the biggest difference. That you're worried about this person's liberty. You're worried about the effect that a criminal conviction is going to have on their life. And then even when I was a prosecutor, right, you're worried about the victim and you're worried about this person getting out and reoffending. So it's the emotional aspect of criminal court is just something that I don't think exists in the civil world.
I want to go maybe switch gears just 1 second from that because you were talking about, the worrying that person's going to come out and reoffend, right? And we did see a couple weeks ago the stabbing that everybody saw. And this is more of not a political comment, but more of a comment on the judicial system. We see that this person was released. And again, I don't know much, so I don't want to get into too much, but apparently he had a rap sheet that was an arm long and he had 14 convictions, definitely arrested 14 times, and he served 5 years. So after he gets out, he reoffends and he's given, a slap on the wrist and he gets out and then obviously he commits his heinous crime. In Miami or in Miami-Dade County here, South Florida, how does Florida deal with repeat offenders, especially someone who's maybe gotten out of jail after, 5 years of serving prison and then all of a sudden commits another crime? How does Florida deal with that?
I mean, Florida is pretty strict compared to the rest of the country. Actually, our criminal, the criminal penal system in Florida, verbatim says the main goal of it is punishment. Like the goal of the criminal penal system in Florida is punishment. And then the next line is like rehabilitation is a goal, but it's subordinate to punishment. So, I mean, I think that Florida does have stricter laws than other parts of the country, and they do deal with reoffenders very seriously. If you have priors on your record, even if they're unrelated priors or, minor priors, like I wouldn't say drug crime is minor, but if, the not a violent crime necessarily, and it's on your record, that's going to totally change the sentencing that you're going to get for whatever your future crimes are. So,
how about bail? I mean, if you get out, you're 5 years out, you did 5 years of prison, you get out, you reoffend maybe for stealing or committing some kind of, potentially violent crime, and you're charged. How do they handle with bail, right? What do they, or they just don't give bail and they say, no, you're going to stay here for now due to your past?
Well, I mean, there's certain crimes that are per se, non-bondable. Like you won't get bail just based on the nature of the charge. But judges definitely do take into consideration what the priors are. Definitely. They even take into consideration previous arrests, which they're really not supposed to.
Right,
but a lot
because
of
an arrest
judges
doesn't
do.
mean you're guilty, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Sure.
But they do. for sure. And I think especially here in Miami-Dade County, they take that into consideration big time.
It's interesting. And I'll ask you the question that I'm sure you've been asked many, many times as a criminal defense attorney. How can you, they say, practicing criminal law, how can you defend people that have been charged with crimes? A lot of times people ask that question, right?
Yeah.
And what's your response to that?
Well, I mean, my response, I guess, is the cliche criminal defense attorney response, but I really do believe it. It's that I'm not defending necessarily their innocence. I'm defending their constitutional rights, right? Everyone has a right to due process. Everyone has a right to an attorney. Everyone has a right to a fair trial. And ultimately, I'm not the jury. So if the jury at the end of the day decides that they're guilty, that is what it is. Obviously, I give them zealous advocacy. You know, everything, I'm ethical. Being zealous and ethical. I think that a lot of times zealousness has the connotation that you're doing something unethical. No. You can zealously represent your clients in an ethical way. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I think I'm defending the Constitution and their rights, not so much the individual.
How do you remember all of the rules of civil procedure and criminal procedure and everything else that goes with it, right? Because all the statutes, it's tough, right? Because it's so different. It's so different. Definitely. And we try to do criminal for just a bit, and the terms were different. We didn't feel comfortable, quite frankly. So how do you feel juggling both areas?
It's definitely a lot. And I also do like injunctions in civil court, which is actually in family court. So I have to learn the family court rules of civil procedure also for those injunction cases. So I'm honestly always just in the civil procedure statutes, just looking them up every single case. I'm always triple checking every single thing to make sure I'm complying, you know, with whatever the civil procedure rules are for or civil procedure or criminal procedure or family court procedure. And then also the judicial procedures, right? Like every judge has their own procedures. So yeah, just constantly quadruple checking everything to make sure I'm complying, but it's definitely a challenge.
It's tough. And then they also changed the rules of civil procedure recently. Right. I would say it's like 30 to 40% of them have changed, right?
Yes.
Quite a bit. Yeah. Did the criminal rules of procedure also change or not as much?
Not as much.
Okay.
They didn't have as big of an overhaul as the civil procedure rules did as of late. Yeah.
At least we have the same rules of evidence, right? At least we can, you know,
true.
both, right?
For the most part, yeah.
I have a question. What do you see are some of the skills that you learned as a criminal attorney that you've now taken over to the civil side?
I think definitely having a lot of courtroom experience on the criminal side gave me an edge on the civil side. So when I was a prosecutor, we were in court every single day, 9 to 5, literally inside the courtroom all day. Most of the motions that you argue in criminal court are tennis. So having that courtroom experience, I think, was a huge edge when I went over to the civil side, because I think a lot of civil attorneys, you know, didn't have that experience of being in court all day or as many trials, or especially a younger attorney. I've been practicing for 5 years. Right. So I would say in terms of courtroom hours, I probably have more than a lot of senior attorneys do.
Right, and I'm assuming being in front of a jury, just you've done so many of them, looking at criminal trials, how they throw in their, you know, new attorneys. It's like, here you go, here's your caseload of 50 cases, and go ahead, and you're all of a sudden picking a jury. You're just like, what the heck, you know? Oh my God.
Other than the burden of proof, is there a big difference between criminal and civil trials?
I mean, yeah, burden of proof would definitely be the biggest, but otherwise, I mean, a lot of it's the same, right? A jury selection is a jury selection. The questions are always different depending on the facts, but the basis to strike people or I mean, are the same. The cause challenges are essentially the same.
Well, I think it's going
strategy
in the litigation, right? Because your discovery is like
and discovery, yeah.
Or you meant trial.
All of it. I was just kind of curious if the trials.
Discovery, of course, yeah.
You're like, there's real discovery in civil.
Yeah,
you know, like you can actually really get like to the bottom of it.
I've always heard that, by the way.
Well, yeah, there's no reciprocal. I mean, there is reciprocal discovery in criminal court, but you're usually not producing anything.
Right.
You're usually just asking the prosecutor for what their discovery is and harassing them for it.
Right.
So in civil, switching over to civil after criminal was a huge adjustment, because I was like, wow, we have discovery, I have discovery, we're both sending discovery back and forth.
And they'll hold you, the court will hold you to the fire. They'll say both sides. The court doesn't care really. And I think Miami's very good about that. The judges are very unbiased, right? They're, hey, you haven't produced discovery. They stick to the rules pretty well. Yeah. You gotta give it over. And I hear in criminal court, sometimes they don't give you the material. They'll hold it. I mean, how many cases have we heard, right? Where you find out that this prosecution didn't turn over evidence. They didn't turn over DNA evidence that later would exonerate somebody. It just blows my mind. In civil court, I'm sure a lot of things aren't turned over, but they have to turn it over. And there's time to do it too.
Definitely.
You guys don't have much time, especially with speedy trials, right?
Yeah. No, definitely less time given speedies. But I mean, if it comes out that they held evidence and withheld evidence, I mean, they have bigger problems. So I do think that a lot of times happens that they withhold evidence, but I don't think it's as common as people think, to be honest with you.
Got it.
Because we were under so much pressure to disclose everything. If anything, they would tell us to over disclose, give every single thing that you can over. So I will give the state attorney's office that. I feel like they disclose a lot. And even Brady material that's not relevant to the case. I mean, anything that's ever happened to any of these officers in their professional history, the state attorney's office will disclose.
Okay.
Would you say that the discovery is driven by the burden of proof? In other words, that's why the state is the one that provides and produces the discovery because it's their burden. Would you say it's driven by that?
Definitely. I mean, unless you're asserting a very specific criminal defense like insanity or like a specific alibi defense, you don't really have anything to produce, right? You're just essentially picking holes in the state's theory. So yeah, discovery is almost unilateral in a sense because they have the burden of proof. Unless you have a very limited defense, you don't really have anything to produce. If you do have discovery to give the state, they're probably going to drop your case. If you have something that's so obviously exculpatory in your hands and you give it to the prosecutor, they would probably drop your case. They would love to get a case off their desk, honestly.
Okay, and that makes sense. Obviously, if you have some sort of alibi, I was at, I don't know, Chuck E. Cheese or something during the time of the incident, whatever, just an example, then obviously if you produce that, then they're pretty much just going to drop your case, right?
For the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. If it's a good one, right?
Right.
So if it's just, my friend that was in jail or was in jail at the time was actually with me during that night. That's a lot of times people try to use an alibi defense. Yeah. And then when I was prosecutor, we would find out that their star alibi witness was actually in custody at the time of the incident. So it's like, okay, obviously that's not a good alibi defense.
I did notice on a case, and we'll probably talk about it off screen, where the cops were adamant, no, that's that guy, right? And then the prosecution starts talking to the police, and they're like, look, we don't think it's that guy. I mean, they've produced X, Y, Z, and the officer will really take a strong position that, hey, no, it's that guy, And I know for sure it wasn't that guy, right? And they still tried to offer a plea deal on something that clearly wasn't him. It just wasn't, to the point where they produced video and the person checked into where they worked at the time, which was a Pollo Tropical, and it's his name. And they came up to the manager and they're like, did he put you up to this? And the manager's like, no, he's at the register, like working. Like, why would he put me up to anything? This is him. He's on the video. It's a little hard to see because, the camera surveillance, but it's him on the counter, taking orders. Unbelievable. And they still offered a plea deal. And he was working at the time of the crime.
You made such an interesting point. I have a question, though. How difficult has it become with all the videos that people have, social media, DNA evidence? How difficult, body cams, to defend these cases? Because you just have so much access to possible evidence, right? So I can imagine that 30 years ago, it was a lot easier, right, to be maybe a defense lawyer. But now, with all this information, right, all this tracking of your phone, I mean, they can they know where you're at 24/7, right, if they really wanted to know where you were, right?
Definitely,
how difficult, and maybe some of the strategies that you've been able to implement to maybe attack some of these cases or some of this evidence? I know it's a difficult question to ask you on the spot, but just anything that comes to mind, whether it's just DNA, video evidence. I know maybe the clarity of the video is important too, but stuff like that. Is there anything that comes to mind where you've been able to defend the case, even though there's that sort of evidence that's been provided?
I mean, I guess kind of like civil cases, right? Attacking the authentication. Like, you might have this video, but can you actually authenticate it? And a lot of times you'll get those videos excluded because they don't have the proper custodian to authenticate it. So just, I guess in a similar way to civil, right? You're just attacking, using the rules of evidence to attack the admissibility of their evidence. So same strategies, I guess, apply.
Okay, that's interesting, because then there's a video, and then let's say that they're not able to necessarily authenticate the date of the video or the time of the video. Then all of a sudden there comes the question of, well, how strong is that evidence, right? Is that evidence, should that evidence even be presented to a jury, right? Is it something that they should consider, right, in their jury and the deliberations, right? So that's interesting. Is there anything else that maybe comes to mind in terms of what you've been able to do to attack, let's say, like DNA evidence or anything like that, other than just authentication, or is that?
I mean, DNA is definitely harder to attack, unfortunately.
Right.
Well, fortunately, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, just like anything else, you attack, you start at the beginning and try to suppress it. What did the police have probable cause to obtain that DNA? And that's when you just try to aggressively litigate those issues. Of course, find novel case law that might be analogous to your facts and just try to get it suppressed from the beginning. Because you might not be able to contest the evidence itself. But if you get it suppressed, of course, you don't even get there. Or, of course, it comes down to the battle of the experts, like in civil as well, right? We can have our own experts that will have a differing opinion as to the match, and they have their expert. So, or also too attacking the credibility of their expert, right? Maybe they didn't test it properly, or maybe that individual doesn't have the proper training to have made that determination. So a lot of similar strategies, I would say.
Well, those would be some strategies you would apply to, for example, DUI cases, right? Same thing, no probable cause, the training that the officer has in determining whether that person's even impaired, right? I mean, what I'm assuming that you would employ those kind of, because you do DUI
I do
cases
a lot
too,
of
right?
DUIs, here.
I'm sure
We're
you do
busy
well.
here in Florida.
Right.
It's funny because I think we've been working far too long together. Because that was going to be my next question, the DUIs.
Well, exactly.
You handle DUIs, right?
A lot of
and
DUIs.
DUI is one of those potential crimes that you don't necessarily have the intent, and any one of us could get picked up for a DUI, right? We go out, we have a couple drinks, and we get pulled over, right? It's very possible, right? Let's put it that way.
That's why I didn't want to drive the other day.
Good. Don't drive, please.
So, hypothetical, right? You have had 2 or 3 drinks and you get pulled over and the cop asks you to blow. So what do you do then? Do you have any sort of suggestion, without giving obviously your legal opinion on here too much, but is there any suggestion that you can give?
I mean, the suggestion I give my close friends and family is to never blow. Because if you blow and if you were to blow over 0.08, there's very little argument to make that you weren't intoxicated. So if you don't blow, everything else can be challenged, right? We can argue why you failed the field sobriety test. Maybe you have a bad leg. Maybe you have vertigo. Maybe you were just tired, right? Maybe you worked a long night and that's why you failed your field sobriety test. But if you give them that empirical evidence through a breathalyzer, it's very hard to beat your case. So I would say if you even had 1 drink, you probably should not blow, because God forbid the machine's not calibrated properly and it has an improper read and shows that you're over 0.08 when really you might have been only a 0.03 or 0.05. I don't know. I think it's always safer not to blow.
So what are the consequences of not blowing, right? They take away your life. I mean, what are the consequences of not blowing, and you can't really challenge anything else or any fruit of the poisonous tree, anything like that? What are the consequences?
Yeah, technically not blowing has an automatic license suspension, which of course is definitely a pain to have your license suspended. But I personally would take a suspended license versus a DUI conviction. So I think it's always safer.
But it's not automatic in that.
It's automatic. If you refuse a breathalyzer, it's automatic license suspension.
But hold on. But the question is, what if you win in trial, right? They want to try you. They take you and they say, oh no, you're impaired, but you show that you didn't blow, but they shouldn't have stopped you to begin with. You had no probable cause. Do you still get your license?
Oh no! If you win the trial.
Yeah.
So it's a different department. It's not the license suspension has nothing to do. It does have to do with the criminal case, but the judge doesn't have the discretion to reinstate your license. That's all through the Department of Highway Motor Safety. So you can go to them and say, hey, I won my DUI case and appeal the suspension. You can also try to get a hardship license, which a lot of my clients get. I have a lot of people that refuse breathalyzers and they get hardship licenses.
Go to work.
Anyway, so go to work, because you need to go to work. You need to go pick up your kid from school or whatever. So there's still ways to get your license back even if you refuse.
Okay, so I think we're saying sort of 2 things, because I want to make sure. It's automatically suspended.
Automatically
right?
suspended, yeah.
But it can be reinstated if you take the DUI case to trial, let's say, and you prevail. They find that you had an alibi, you weren't drinking, you were working that day, whatever it was, right? And you win, then you could possibly have the license reinstated?
Potentially.
Okay.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
Not necessarily. They might continue to suspend your license. It's all up to the discretion of the Department of Highway Motor Safety. So it's not the judge's discretion.
And if it is suspended, it's for a year, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. 1 year.
So
there are exceptions though, right? You can drive to work. How does that?
If you apply for the hardship license, but
Okay.
that's totally separate from the criminal case. You'd have to go to the Department of Highway and Motor Safety and apply for a hardship license, and then it's up to their discretion if they want to grant it or not.
And
And it's literally a separate license. It looks like a separate license and everything.
in Florida, can they don't, okay, you pass the sobriety field test, you refuse to blow, can they draw blood?
They need a warrant.
They need a warrant.
Yes,
Okay. All right.
they need a warrant to draw your blood. Technically.
Interesting. Okay. Because I had, look, since we're not in that world, you read stuff online, and it's been a while since I've read stuff where someone maybe was in the hospital after an accident, they'll go and draw blood.
Yes, but sometimes they can argue exigent circumstances, but most of the times they need a warrant. So you can usually get it suppressed if they don't get a warrant for that.
And getting a warrant literally is there a judge
Yeah, there's a duty judge
all the time?
on call. Yeah,
3 in the morning, 4 in the morning?
yes. Or they'll get it and then make the exigent circumstances argument later. They'll just do the blood draw and then later on you'll suppress it.
It's very different. It's blowing my...
interesting. Yeah. And I have this may need some expert testimony or whatever, but I'm kind of curious about impairment. Okay. And the reason I say that is I say it jokingly to Ralph because he's sort of a lightweight, right? He has a drink or two and he's feeling it, right?
Lightweight now. I wasn't a lightweight in college, obviously, or in law school, unfortunately. But
blowing over
Lightweight now.
0.08, does that have to do with your overall tolerance or does it have to do more biological? So let's say he's 6 feet tall, 205 pounds, whatever he is. Does that, would two or...
Good guess. Good guess.
Good guess?
Maybe a little more than 6, but yeah.
Okay.
Good guess.
But would a couple drinks, although he may feel impaired, do you know if he would maybe blow over a 0.08? Is it more like your body, your biologically, or is it the fact that he's gonna feel impaired just because maybe he doesn't drink very often, so he's gonna feel that?
I mean, definitely biological. They'll calculate it based off your weight, your height, but also, everyone has different metabolism, so you might metabolize it faster than somebody else. It's actually an argument that the prosecutors make a lot. If you happen to blow under 0.08, they'll still make the argument that you, based on your
impaired.
weight or your weight and your height, that at the time that you were driving, you would have been over 0.08. So to do a breathalyzer properly, they have to do it back at the station. They have to take you back to the state. You don't do it at the scene. They do the field sobriety tests. You hypothetically fail them.
Right.
Then they would arrest you, take you to the station, and then they would administer the breathalyzer at the station.
Do they have to input certain information into the machine before you blow?
The machine needs to be properly calibrated before, and they have to, say, honestly, I'm not sure if they have to put your weight and height in.
Yeah,
don't quote me on that.
That's what I'm asking.
No, I don't think they have to put that into the machine. The machine does have to be properly calibrated, but they have to get your informed consent and everything back at the station, and then, it's potentially an hour has gone by from the time that they arrest, like you initially were driving, they pulled you over to the back of the station. So there's been times that people will blow a 0.05, but they'll still argue that, okay, well, 1 hour ago you were at 0.08 because you weigh, 160 and you're this height, and based on that formula, you would have been over 0.08 an hour ago.
Okay.
So
and then they'll still prosecute based off of
that formula.
being impairment. Interesting.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah, because they'll say there's other indicia of impairment. Like the indicia of impairment would be the red eyes, glassy eyes, smell of alcohol, flushed face. That's what they look at initially that gives them reasonable suspicion to do the roadsides.
Yeah. For Ralph, it's talking a lot, stuff like that.
Jamming out in the car to Taylor Swift, I don't know.
No, definitely not. Definitely not jamming out to, I listen to old stuff. Definitely not.
You have a unique perspective on social media. I know you post a lot, right? You have a relatively large following. And so tell us a little bit about maybe some of your advice on posting on social media and, obviously maybe to some of the younger people too.
Well, I love TikTok. And I strongly encourage older attorneys to be on TikTok if they want to grow their social media presence, because the trends on TikTok are first in time to the trends on Instagram. They're earlier. So everything that's blowing up on TikTok will be popular on Instagram a month later. So if you catch the trends on TikTok first and post them on your Instagram page, they're gonna be, you're just gonna look like you're like, wow, you're so cool, you came up with this cool idea. No, that was on TikTok like a month ago. So
But the reach, though, I feel like, and I could be wrong because quasi boomer, but the you're right there, buddy. But I feel like the TikTok is not as local, right? Like we had a video once, what do you 700,000 views or likes or some insane thing. We never got that much again, but it blew up all of a sudden. We would wake up and be like, oh my God, there's like 100,000 more people. But the turnover for an actual case, right, is not, I feel, again, I could be wrong, is different than it is on Instagram. I feel like Instagram gives you more because the reach is more local. That I could be completely wrong. I don't know if I'm thinking about this wrong.
no, I think Instagram does have a more local reach in terms of like
Yeah, I'm getting people from, like, I don't know, Montreal liking my video, but they're not going to give me a case, right? I like the information to get out there, especially if it's a good video that's informative, but, somebody in North Dakota really isn't going to call me, odds are, but here in Miami-Dade County, South Florida, or maybe even a surrounding state, right? Texas, we have some cases in Texas. You'll get some feedback there as opposed to TikTok.
I guess the logic would be if you grow a following on TikTok, then you can convert them over to your Instagram. And it's also like the following shows social proof, right? It shows that you're a real person, shows that you're
not AI.
You're not AI, you exist.
Right.
So I guess like the benefit of having that following on TikTok shows that it's just for social proof essentially. And then hopefully converting those followers over to your Instagram. But I do think the algorithm is way better on TikTok. Like it's so hard to go viral nowadays on Instagram because Meta, I guess, is just so like commercialized. Like they only push out sponsored content or boosted content. So it's way easier to go viral on TikTok without paying for your boosted content than it is on Instagram.
What about your MySpace? Did you ever? I'm just kidding. I'm only kidding.
She must have been like 5.
I wasn't allowed. No,
I'm kidding.
I was
That's why
definitely
I said
around
it.
them, but I wasn't allowed to have one.
I'm only joking.
I was on Club Penguin back then.
So you think that the algorithm is a little bit better for TikTok, but in terms of actually reaching local, possible clientele, do you think Instagram and Facebook are a little bit better, or you just try all of them, basically, right? Is that what you're suggesting?
I mean, yeah, for sure. Especially if you're already making the content. Like that's the beauty of social media. It's free. Just put the content everywhere. Why not? And I think consistency is more important than anything, right? Just reminding people of who you are. Because even in our own circles, right? Like people know you're an attorney, but do they know exactly what you do if you don't tell them about it or post about it?
Right.
Like I have so many friends from high school that knew for a long time, oh, Amy's a lawyer. She's always wanted to be a lawyer. Okay, but they probably didn't know what I do until I started posting about it and saying, hey, I do DUIs. Hey, I do car accidents. I do, X, Y, and Z. And it also brings you to top of mind, right? Because everyone knows 1,000 lawyers. Mm-hmm. But if you're the one that's in their social media every day and they look at you like, oh yeah, that's right, they're Amy, then they think about you. That's my opinion.
I think you're right. You got to be in their face. I know people that like, oh my God, I had this case. I forgot you did that. I'm like, I've told you 1,000.
Yeah.
Julito.
Yeah, of course.
A friend of mine. So he was like, I speak to him all the time. Oh yeah, I forgot. And he gave his case to someone else that was like a pretty good water claim. I'm talking about like $400,000 water claim. I'm like, I've gone hunting with you. Like, what do you?
Yeah.
How many times am I supposed to say it? I have to wear a shirt in front of you and say, I do this.
Yeah.
But I guess you're right. You got to be in their face.
How do you stay professional on social media as well as relevant and interesting? Because let's be honest, we're lawyers. Does somebody that's going to follow you, do they really want to see 5 or 6 videos every single week about what area of practice we handle, right? And I don't know what the answer is, right? So, but how do you stay engaged with them? How do you stay relevant? Interesting is really kind of like the question I'm asking.
I mean, I think it's good to kind of mix up your content, right? Like no one wants to see the same thing over and over again. Humans love novelty. So I think if you mix it up, with some entertaining content, some informational content, because obviously you do want to show them I'm not just a jokester, right? Like I'm a serious attorney. Yes, I enjoy levity. I can make a joke and I have a good sense of humor. But at the end of the day, like I'm a professional, serious attorney, and here and post the educational videos. Here's something that you might have not thought about, or here's an educational tip. So I think mixing up the content kind of keeps people not bored, keeps people engaged.
Well, that's the balance we've been trying to strike because we absolutely have a good sense of humor. We're joking around, but conveying that we will take your case seriously. We are serious in court. We are respected. That in those balances, because you'll see a lot of attorneys that are just funny, right? And it's funny, but let me tell you, they have a lot of followers.
Yeah.
Right? But do you really want to give your case to that person when your, child died, or, your mom got in a serious accident, or you yourself, you want to give it to someone who's going to handle it with the same seriousness that they would do anything else in their own life, right? Yeah. So that little balance it's very hard.
For sure. I definitely struggle with that, thinking about like, anytime I post, I think 100 times before I post it. Is this appropriate? Can I say this? I look at the Florida bar rules very often and make sure, can I even post this? Am I allowed to post this? Am I violating an advertising rule, right? I mean, I think every attorney is petrified of getting disbarred.
Oh yeah.
So,
jeez, don't even get me started.
Yeah.
That's what something that a lot of people that are followers of us or think about attorneys, they just don't realize the seriousness of the bar, because a lot of professions don't have that hanging over their head and governing every single little thing they do. Some people are like, oh, okay, this happened. Okay, you put a complaint with the DBR, with a regulatory agency. Okay, big deal, right? It really doesn't do as much. Or, for us with the bar, they don't realize how much we have to follow our rules of ethics and professionalism and what we do in every single aspect, how we talk to our clients, how we answer the phone, the advertisement.
Definitely.
And how we manage their cases, because every step of the way can be a malpractice, a case or, a cause.
That's true.
But I do ask myself whether the lawyer that is maybe a little bit sillier on social media has 100,000 followers, whether they're going to get those big cases. They may very well get those cases, right? Because at the end of the day, those individuals may not know anybody else. Right? So they may go to them because, hey, this is the only person that's posting constantly. He does personal injury. He does criminal. And I'm going to send my case to them.
And,
right?
And he has 4 boats.
Right.
So, yeah.
He must be really good if he's rich, right? I feel like that's the connotation that people want,
that's true,
people to make, yeah.
It's true.
That happens a lot.
You got to flaunt,
right?
they flaunt their money. And then they're like, oh man, that guy has, 4 cars parked in his house. He's got a Rolls. He's got a, whether he rents them or not, that's the image, right? Those are the optics. And it makes sense. If that guy's doing well, and he's a personal injury attorney, he charges on contingency. That means, hey, he must be getting people their money and their relief. Yeah.
For sure. I definitely know personal injury attorneys, not naming names, that rent watches and rent, high luxury, rent luxury goods for that image.
Write that down.
Because non-attorneys, because it's true. I think non-attorneys think, they look at an attorney and they see if you're not, they look at how you're dressed, right?
That's true.
All those memes of like, oh, if your attorney is dressed like this, you're going to jail. Right? That's the public perception of attorneys.
Absolutely.
If you dress,
it is.
A well-dressed attorney has the connotation of being a better attorney.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the optics are deceiving, right? Because that person can be just terrible, doesn't know their way around court, has never even maybe done a trial at all.
Oh my gosh, for sure.
Right? And then, us sitting here have done, gotten on so many trials, other friends of ours and peers that have done many trials, and we know that they do absolutely know what to do. And that attorney that's never gone to trial is going to be hiring us or you or somebody else to do their trial for them. And look, we will, because we do it and we believe we're good at it. But they don't realize that, again, that guy's may be a litigator, but he has no idea his way around
It's true. I call them the pre-suit attorneys, I mean, some of the attorneys are really good at pre-suit.
Incredible.
They're really good at posturing. They're really good at getting those big settlements pre-suit.
I'm not knocking them. No.
Whatever they're doing is
not
working.
knocking some of them that actually they have done trial. They'll take it to trial 100%.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's some that I know that don't do it at all, and I know some incredible pre-suit lawyers who get the right experts. They set it up properly. Hey, look, you want that too, because you want your case to be resolved pre-suit. I know a couple of spoke to one a couple of days ago, and he's done trials too, but he's very good at pre-suit. It's incredible how good he is. So.
Well, that's true too. You don't necessarily want your case to go to trial.
No,
either,
absolutely
right?
not. Absolutely not.
So having on the front end, working hard, setting up your case properly, that goes a long way as well.
Oh God, that could be the entire case sometimes. Getting all that information up front, and trying to resolve it in the beginning.
Right, because sometimes they may be willing or less willing to take a case to trial if you set it up properly pre-suit. So
that's right.
Oh yeah, definitely important.
Hand in hand too. Yeah. What are maybe some of the challenges you say that you face since becoming a lawyer?
I think being underestimated for sure. I think being a woman.
Really?
Unfortunately, yeah. I think. Granted, now it's definitely changing, right? There's nowadays, it's more than 50% of law school graduates are women. If you look at just our judiciary here in Miami, I mean, I think the majority of the judges are women nowadays. But I think still on a day-to-day basis, being a younger female attorney was or has been challenging.
I actually feel that female attorneys are actually almost some of the better attorneys I've seen. And I mean this. We've
Yeah, me too.
I'm almost like, oh no, like I'm serious because they know the law, and I don't know if it's certainly not because the differences in the sexes. I feel like maybe because of the former environment that it was in the professions, women have really gone in there and say, hey, hold on, we're just as good as anybody, and they are easily. That's why, there's more female judges than there are male judges. Like I definitely, and Frank and I absolutely will never underestimate anybody because of their sex at all. Quite the contrary. Like I'm like, you got to gear up. You
guys are great guys then, if that's your.
No, it's true. It's true. We know a few like, and they're brilliant, and you're like, oh, yep. We gotta be ready. Yep.
Well, like 100%. You said, over 50% of the law school graduates now are female, right? And the judiciary in Miami-Dade County, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's pretty high, I would say, right? Yeah. So I think times are changing a lot.
Definitely.
Right? Are there any specific instances that maybe you can discuss without saying any names, let's say, that you've sort of faced throughout the years? Any, just general, it doesn't have to be any, maybe at a mediation or maybe at a hearing, or on, obviously face-to-face when we did that after COVID, everything has changed. But any situation that you've been involved in that you can talk about?
I mean, definitely so many times when I first started practicing, I used to do a lot of property insurance defense. Right. So I would actually go to the inspections, and like 9 times out of 10, they did not think I was the attorney. They thought I was a paralegal or like just someone that worked in the office. And I don't know how they didn't realize that I was the attorney. And they would start talking to the plaintiff about the case and talking about the insurance company and how they want to get this, and this has been going on for a long time. And of course, I'm just sitting there taking notes like, okay, well, if you're going to say all of this in front of me and not believe that I'm the attorney.
Oh my God.
That surprises me a little bit.
And by the way, this is after I told them I'm the attorney. And I guess they still like just didn't register like that I'm actually an attorney. Like I was like, what?
That's incredible.
I don't know, that's in particular. And also too, going to court initially, people would think I was a court reporter or a paralegal. That's happened multiple times. And I know a lot of girlfriends that are attorneys that's happened to as well.
Oh boy.
Is that something that you accept, or do you use that as motivation?
I mean, if anything, I find it like challenging. Like, okay, you underestimated me, now I'm going to prove you wrong. And I like that, right? Because if you underestimate me and I'm over prepared, it's over for you, right? Because you didn't prepare thinking that I was going to be an adversary. So I don't know. It's an annoying part, but it's also a challenging part, and a part that I just accepted, I guess.
Yeah, you're almost empowered.
Yeah, it's empowering for sure.
The practice of law is difficult, right? On the psyche, right, if you will. Is there anything that you do outside of work to sort of maybe reduce some of the stress, deal with some of the issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis?
So before I was an attorney, I was in the fitness industry for over 10 years. My first job out of high school was working as a spinning instructor in LA Fitness. So fitness is a huge part of my life. I think that it's not just a fad. It should be a part of your life. And it's, physical fitness and mental fitness, I think, go hand in hand.
100%.
Right? Like just sports as well. I think that those are playing sports when you're younger and becoming mentally tough through sports lends itself to being mentally tough in your profession.
Did you play sports?
Yes.
Where'd you play?
Tons of different sports. I ran track, softball, fencing. I competitively sailed, which was random.
Wow, okay.
I fenced for a long time, which was such a fun sport. There's actually a Miami fencing club that I want to join again and get
So you
involved.
have your foil at home?
But that was in high school? They had a fencing team?
In high school, there was like a Miami club team. But we competed nationally and all over. It was very fun. My cousins all fenced too, so we would fence each other.
We'll talk about that later.
Fencing
actually.
in my school was jumping fences, but not the actual fences that.
No. I went to LaSalle. They weren't that bougie. No.
No, they're not bougie.
No.
Not bougie at all.
No.
It's quite the contrary.
Yes. Definitely no fencing in LaSalle.
Did you row at like Miami Rowing Club or at MRC or somewhere in the Grove? I know the Grove, I think, had
it was sailing. I did sailing at Miami Yacht Club and Coral Reef Yacht Club.
At Coral Reef, okay. All right.
So my brother's a big sailor, so I sailed with him when I was younger. He went to the Naval Academy for sailing. So we're a big sailing family.
Wow. Interesting.
I would pay so much money to see Ralph do a spin class. I gotta tell you.
Oh my gosh, we gotta make it happen.
It's tough.
I feel like
It's
Ralph would
really
be good at
tough.
spinning.
I
don't know.
if I take 3 Advils before the age of my knees, I have 2 torn meniscuses. I did powerlifting meets. I did meets. I swam for many. I mean, swimming didn't do anything for my knees.
Spinning is tough. It's
Super
really,
hard.
really
Are you
difficult.
kidding? It's
Super.
insane.
Yeah.
It looks boring and it looks tough. Boring and tough.
Just like running. I'm not a huge runner, but it's just boring to me.
No, and the
right?
running tears up your knees.
Yeah.
I used to love to run. I did track it for a long time, and it just kills your knees.
But what was your event? What was
800.
The 800.
I was like, just wanted to do the 800.
Right. That's what lap, right? No.
It's, 2 laps, yeah.
2 laps.
It's half a mile. It's pretty good clip.
What was
gotta tell
your
you.
time?
I think it was like 3:18 or
We gotta
something
try
like
to
that.
beat that.
I probably can't beat
Probably
that.
can't. I don't know.
Well, that's what a 6.5
think- actually, no.
mile, give or take.
No, it must have been less. It must have been under 3 then. Honestly, I can't remember the time.
Under 3's fast.
It was under 3. It was under 3, or
Yeah.
or just about 3. Yeah, something like that.
I know random.
I don't know. We can look it up online. We definitely have those.
Bruce Lee loved fencing. I know that's kind of random.
Oh.
And he would base his beats on his jab on fencers. The way fencers would come in and jump in and step, he liked that. So I don't know. Random fact.
It was such a fun sport.
That's pretty random. That is pretty random.
It is.
I didn't know he
random.
liked fencing.
He
but it
did.
makes
He did.
sense.
He liked obviously boxing and fencing and
was a
wrestling and
Renaissance
judo.
man.
He was, and that was his whole thing. He was like the first MMA guy.
Oh,
Really, he really was, and that was his whole thing. That's why a lot of people didn't like him. But fencing was part of his thing, and he would fight power side forward, and like fencers, if you're right-handed, you're right-handed forward, right? So he would fight. If he was right-handed, he wouldn't fight with his power hand back. He'd fight with his power hand forward. So, I don't know. Anyway,
I gotta look up some YouTube clips of him.
there you go.
And because you mentioned that that's stuff that you've done in the past, is there something that you do currently, let's say,
Yeah,
with
it's
working out?
Still
and-
very active. I mean, even if I'm extremely busy or stressed with work, or whatever, I still will carve out time. Like I need to at least work out for an hour. Like that's my therapy. I like need to go to the gym. I need to move my body somehow. So I love Pilates. I still spin a lot. I taught spinning all throughout law school, and I was gonna start teaching again recently, but I don't know. Actually takes more preparation than you realize to teach a spinning class.
Really?
Because you have to do the choreography, you have to keep up to date. You're like a DJ basically. You're DJing a class.
Oh, right,
And then you
right,
have to do
right.
choreography for all of the songs. So like, I mean, I don't really have time
And
for
that
that right now.
you use that as kind of therapy for you on the effects of the stresses of work.
For sure.
Yeah.
Hold on, because you just blew me away. You have to choreograph the spinning too
Yes.
before you do the
If you want to
spinning
be
class?
good, otherwise people won't take your class.
But what do you mean? Give us an example. What do you mean? Like, come on, everybody, just let's go a little harder.
Like if the beat drops, you all of a sudden have to go up.
There's
or down,
like different
or
hand movements that you do and stuff like that. And you have to
No.
do everything like timed, like on the beat. Yes, obviously you have to put good music. Like if you have bad music, people don't want to go to your class.
You have to put the music yourself too?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I
You
didn't know
DJ the
that.
whole class.
I didn't know that.
You
I didn't
DJ
know
the whole
what-
class
all right,
and
how
you're
about this?
choreographing moves.
Frank and I will do a class.
Yeah, that's
we gotta
great.
all go.
That's
We'll
hilarious.
get you, me, and Kiko to do a spinning class. Maybe we'll bring Danny Arrow,
Oh man,
and he'll sit there and we'll do a spinning class.
that's so funny. So
all
I
have to
had
go
no
together.
idea you had to choreograph and also play the DJ. So you have like a
Yes.
screen, an iPad or something
Yeah,
where
you
you're
have
DJing.
you have like
No
an
way.
iPad next
with
to
a little,
you.
with a little.
Yeah, technically you have to
microphone.
plan it before to make sure all the timing is correct in terms of like when your sprints are going to be, when your cooldown's going to be, when the warm up is. Obviously can't have them sprinting the whole time, so you have to vary things.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was like that.
You have to
Yeah,
look
I
at the
just-
beats per minute and make sure like it's not too to choreograph pace on the beats per minute. Like, yeah, it's a whole thing.
I always thought it was like line dancing. Like
Everyone
this
just does
is
their
the
own
song,
thing.
and everybody does the same
Go
thing
ha-
at the same
go
time.
have fun?
Like everybody knows what they're gonna do. All right, so you're actually leading the course.
Yes,
Or-
yes.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, you do jumps, which is just sitting in the saddle and standing up out of the saddle. And there's like different moves that you can do on the bike.
That's
it depends,
so
yeah.
funny.
The studio that you're teaching
go
at
from
too.
like doing like house music on a bike to Pilates, which is like an electric chair. It looks to me like where
Oh my
you're
gosh.
attaching, you brings up your leg, and it's like
Yeah.
it's the weirdest.
But wait, hold on.
That's
Wait,
two
'cause
different.
I'm still
levels.
stuck on the choreograph. What's your go-to music then during a spinning class when you're teaching?
House and reggaeton. I mix it up with house and reggaeton. Is always my
Yeah, you
my
gotta put some
go-to.
house.
And also too, it's like kind of like a jury, right? You read the room and see, and you kind of tailor your argument to the people that you're looking at. So the kind of
Right.
same thing when I would teach spinning. I'd look at my room and see, the younger women, older women, like, are they locals? Like, are they Miami people? Would they like reggaeton? Would they like Taylor Swift? So I would kind of vary whatever my music was based on my room and how they were responding to it too. If I would see them like bored in the class, like, okay, I don't like
That
this
sounds
song,
like too much work
I
for
would
you
switch
to go
it.
from.
That's why I'm like, I can't be a
nah.
litigator and run a firm and have, God forbid I have a personal life also, to also having my spinning career.
That's right.
Speaking of which, your dog makes an appearance a lot, right, on social
Thank
media.
you. Yeah, he's my baby.
Yeah.
I don't have any children yet, so he's my baby.
He goes to work with you as well sometimes.
Yes.
Okay.
He goes to work with me. He goes to a lot of my appointments. Unfortunately, I can't take him to court, but
Can't take it to court.
Well, I think there was a picture of him in the courthouse as well,
oh
right?
yes, that's true.
Okay.
He did go for a photo shoot at the courthouse.
I think that's great. I think that's great.
Well,
And it shows the levity too. Like,
For sure.
and look, we're all human, right? And we're all trying our best for our clients, and we're pushing and zealously advocating for them. But at the end of the day, we're human, right? We have our own separate lives outside of the courtroom, outside of the practice of law. So it's nice to show that too on the social media posts.
Definitely. Also just authentic, right?
Yeah.
Like, I like dogs. I'm sure a lot of people like dogs. So
Yeah.
maybe that'll be the thing that they relate to me with.
Yeah.
Okay, she has dachshunds, I have a dachshund. I'm actually a part of Miami Dachshund Club. And we do meetups like every month. And I take my dog, and of course, I mean, they know me. They know me as a personal injury attorney and a criminal defense attorney.
Kids, and then the clubs are no longer.
Yeah, then you have schools. Then you have PTA and the carnival or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well,
What sort of feedback do you get from the dog after you take him to one of those events? I mean, is he happy? Is
Oh
he
my
kind of like,
gosh.
hey, Mom, thanks for taking me. I appreciate that.
He's like passed out for the rest of the week. I wear him out for the week.
Is it like a dog park or something? Or they
They
just...
do, yeah, different dog parks. There's
Okay.
actually a wiener dog. It's called the Wiener Dog Brewery in here. I think nearby actually, might be in Little Haiti.
He's not
Little
a wiener
Haiti.
dog.
He's a wiener dog. Yeah.
Oh, he is?
He's a long-haired dachshund. Dachshund.
Okay. So what's the funniest thing that you've ever witnessed as a lawyer?
Definitely like in the early days when I was a prosecutor during COVID, you just see the craziest things on Zoom court. So when I first started as a prosecutor, they put you in county court, which is where you prosecute criminal traffic violations. So we had to prosecute a lot of driving with suspended license crimes. And every single day, people would show up on Zoom court driving on the phone for their driving with suspended license charge. So we'd have to of course, be like, please, sir, we're literally prosecuting for you for this. Like, get off the phone. Or other times too, people would be smoking pot, like on camera. Like they would just sit there. There's one guy allegedly. But when we were prosecutors, we would of course put it on the record. Let the record reflect the defendant appears to be hitting a bong right now.
Oh my!
Because he's doing it on Zoom. So obviously, if you don't put it on the record, how would anyone know what they're doing?
Did you ever have anybody hijack the stream when you guys were on Zoom?
We definitely had I know it went viral one time that there was a person with a cat. Remember
Yes,
that viral
yes.
moment
Yeah, it was
that someone
really
came on, they couldn't
funny
get the
too.
cat photographer.
Yeah.
We definitely had people like that came on with filters on or with masks on. We had a lot of weird sovereign citizens.
Oh, have you seen those? Right?
Oh my
Where
gosh, those are-
They claim that you have no jurisdiction over them because they're sovereign. They don't fall under the rules of the U.S.
I have
Yes,
seen those.
and they also say that they're not people. There's this weird argument they try to make that they say that they're not people and
Not
they're
persons,
not
like,
persons.
within the,
yes,
the definition.
so they
Interesting.
so the government doesn't have jurisdiction over them. So they
Right.
would appear to court, and the judge would call their name, and they would say, John Smith, are you here? And then the sovereign would appear and say, well, that's the name that I was given, but I don't identify as that name, and I'm not that person. I'm here representing that person. And of course, it was them. So
Right.
the judge would issue a bench warrant because if John Smith is not present on the platform or present in court, okay, there's a bench warrant for John Smith. And then the sovereign would say, oh, no, actually, that's me.
Yeah, exactly. Really, really quick way to deal with it. We had, and I don't know if Frank was on this one. We had a Zoom, and which we still do it, but we did have one of the Zoom hearings. It was a big motion calendar, must have been like 60 attorneys, and it got hijacked with porn, And then you
Gosh.
remember that it
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
and then the judge obviously freaking out. Turns it off, turns it back on. Okay,
gosh.
guys, we're fine. Boom, it hits it again, and it was pretty explicit.
It happened a lot, especially at the beginning.
Yep.
Right.
I think Zoom got better also
Yeah.
at
Blocking
right.
the issues. Yeah. for
But
sure.
it was challenges, I guess. Let me go back. When you started practicing, it was around COVID, right?
So I graduated in 2020. So my last semester of law school ended up being virtual. So like COVID was March of 2020.
Right.
Did you take the bar?
I took the bar virtual. Yeah.
From home?
From home.
Oh.
Which was so annoying because we were all eager to take the bar. And when they told us, okay, you're going to be able to take it in person, but you have to wear a mask, we all started doing practice tests with the mask on, getting ready to take it. And then literally the eve before the bar, not the eve, but 2 days before the bar, they sent out a mass email saying the bar's canceled. And they canceled the bar like three times. And then finally postponed it. It was supposed to be in July.
Right.
They ended up postponing it to October, like late October.
To set up, I guess.
I guess the computer system and all that. But we were all just like in limbo.
Sure.
We were recent law grads. We're not lawyers, so you can't go work anywhere. And a lot of people lost their job offers or their job offers got pushed back to January. I had an offer from the state attorney's office already, so they pushed my start date back to January. So we're just like in limbo basically for the whole year.
So when did
trying
you
to take the bar?
So when did you take the bar? You graduate. When did you take the bar? So you graduated in July, right?
Finally in October, yeah. Towards the end of October.
Okay. From home.
From home.
Do they still? Because when we took it, we were on horseback and candlelight at that point. Right?
I know Ralph would write his exams. by
Yeah,
hand.
exactly.
I did.
He
Guys, we had computers. Okay? There were computers, laptop. That's normal. This is 2008. Okay, it's
But
not
we
like
bubble
ancient.
in. I think the multiple choice, right? It was bubbling.
Everything was bubbling.
Huh?
Bubbling.
It was, right?
Yeah.
Is it still like that, or did it change? Because yours wasn't like that. Yours was everything was over the computer.
Yeah, it was online. I
So
mean, you had to
everything was
write.
online.
You had to type your essays still.
Yeah,
you had to do
type and the
multiple choice
choice.
with bubbles. Yeah, that same. It's just
Right.
online.
But it was online.
Online.
And at
So
home.
do you know if they still do it online?
no, they
or-
moved it back to in person.
So you still
a while
bubble in
ago.
multiple choice?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, don't think that I obviously the expectation that you wanted of the bar and taking it at home is much easier. So just trust me when I tell you I understand how it can be distracting, right? Because at home you kind of gotta especially my house, which was a nut house. But when you go and there's 3,000, 500, 4,000 people in a room with just tables as far as the eye can see, it's mind blowing. For some people, it's very stressful.
Sure.
And you have to get a room, you have to go drive up there, everyone's rushing to find a place to eat, it's not like they had Uber Eats or anything yet, so taking it home, I almost felt was like kind of not fair to me.
MySpace. You would order it on MySpace, and then they would bring you the food at some point.
No, man, you just call the place and say, hey, I'd like a delivery. Just normal phone call.
That's true. I'm only kidding. You opened up Ravelo Law Firm within the last year, right?
Yes.
And where do you see the law firm in 5 to 10 years? What are your goals? What are your aspirations? Where do you see yourself in 5, 10 years? Curious.
I mean, definitely want to scale as much as I can, right? I mean, that's the beauty of being a business owner. The sky's the limit.
Right.
So the goal is definitely to scale, ideally bring in more cases, bring in, junior attorneys under me to grow a team. I would love to have an all-woman team, honestly. That's always been a dream of mine to have like an all-woman law firm. So yeah, I want to scale as much as I possibly can and take on more serious cases. I'm really passionate about, to be honest with you, I don't do all crimes. So I actually don't do certain crimes. I prefer to specialize in like DUIs.
Sure, say that. Say that. Say like, look, I don't take. So you don't take all crimes.
I don't take all crimes.
What are the crimes you don't take?
I do not take sexual assault crimes. I don't take any crimes involving children. I don't take any like child pornography cases. I don't take anything like that. I don't take any crimes involving animals. Right. So everyone's entitled to a defense, but they're not entitled to my defense.
Right.
Which is a good point.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good point because even if the person, look, it's a very emotionally charged case one way or another. Obviously, look, I think when you represent somebody, you kind of have an inkling whether you kind of know, especially in criminal law, if they did it or not, right? But if they did it, let somebody else, I guess, protect them or handle them on that process that the prosecutors need to do and the state needs to show. But it's such an emotionally charged thing that it's so heinous that, hey, screw you. I don't need to represent you. There's no way.
I mean, that's the beauty of being a private attorney, right? Like public defenders don't have that discretion. They have to defend everybody. That's why I wasn't a public defender because I personally morally cannot defend everybody. I could do it, but I wouldn't enjoy that. I wouldn't enjoy doing that. And at the end of the day, I mean, you have to do what you love, right?
Of course. Right.
So, because maybe I misunderstood you. So, in other words, you're not going to defend all types of crimes, right? And we just went through the laundry list of the types of crimes that you don't necessarily defend against. Now, the niche practice that you mentioned earlier, can you talk a little bit more about that and what your experience has been in that realm? That's more civil, right?
Yes.
Okay. How does that work? Is that statutory based? Is that you also seek, I guess, money from the person that has performed those heinous acts? Is that how it works generally?
For sure. I mean, especially I know like now there's a rise in Uber sexual assault cases. Those are huge now. Like what they say, apparently a statistic came out that there's a sexual assault every 8 minutes in Uber.
By the Uber driver
Against a passenger. Okay. Yeah, there was a New York Times article that came out last month saying the festering problem of Uber sexual assault. And it's something that is basically going unchecked. I mean, ride shares are everywhere nowadays. Everyone uses an Uber or a Lyft, and it's a big problem that's going on.
I wonder, and I don't know this.
And then at that point, sorry, you would represent the victims.
Represent the victim against Uber or the ride share.
Driver, whoever is committing that sexual assault.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, even that is because look, like any crime, there's a lot of allegations, and I think in the sexual assault world, there are a lot of false accusations, especially on athletes and famous people. I personally was involved in a case, and the celebrity was 100% clear. There's no question. We have video, we had proof, and we've known how many there's football players, and recently there's a bunch of them that the hockey players, right? That famous story where
you think they were innocent?
No, she admitted it after. She says that.
She did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
there
that.
was a bunch of the lacrosse players. The lacrosse players that said, "Oh, I was sexually assaulted by all these lacrosse players," and it was a complete lie, fabrication, and all these kids had their lives destroyed. And I don't want to get political because that goes to that whole movement, that the Me Too movement. But the truth is, so many celebrities. In fact, I think if you look at the majority, I'm not talking about Harvey Weinstein or a monster like that, okay? But there really are so many false accusations that it's got to be tough on who you pick because it ruins somebody's life. And it's happened. Football players, baseball players. We had a representation one that we had to drop because we found out, I'll tell you off record, that it was false. So that's another emotionally charged.
I think people nowadays are very skeptical of sexual assault accusations.
Because every
so
time
you really need to have the evidence to prove your case nowadays.
How many times have we saw, and then all of a sudden they're.
Yeah, it's tough. But that's why we have people like you that are in those niche practices. So
well, it's just so nuanced, right? Like consent is nuanced. Also, like it's not a black. I mean, it is black and white in terms of like when giving consent or not giving consent, but.
Well, with your background at being a prosecutor in the criminal world, you can parse out what's real and what's not a little bit better.
For sure.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you guys so much.
Appreciate it. We got to do this again at some time soon. So
thank you guys for having me.
That was great. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. So nice to see you, and thank you for having me.
Of course.